Hello, Coach. This is number 51, Adam Militello, left guard extraordinaire here. Kirk asked me to do a little video tribute, I guess, for the podcast coming up. So I jumped at the opportunity. Couldn't resist. So Kirk's got a pretty good thing going there with Talk in the Attic. He's got some good content and had some good guests on. So it was only a matter of time before he got Dave Schwartz on this podcast. So I'm really excited to hear the final product for this one. I usually listen to those on my way home from work. So as you can see, I busted out the old Rydell jersey from back 2004 season. I think it still has some red paint from Millington Frankenmuth on it, but yeah, doesn't fit like it did when I was in high school, but still got some good size filling out the shoulders. So that's all attributed to yourself and what you taught me in the weight room, obviously. So, I'm not sure what he's going to cover in this podcast. I'd imagine it has to do with your Michigan High School Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame induction, which actually I just had a chance to speak to you last month over the phone on Father's Day about. So it was nice chatting with you, even though it was brief. But I guess when I think back to the life and the legacy of Dave Schwartz, as a football coach, mentor, leader of young men, and athletic director, amongst your other titles that you held throughout the years in Essex Hampton Public Schools. I mean, it starts with me in the beginning. We were in middle school, junior high at Kramer, and I remember you came over to the gymnasium and kind of sat the eighth graders down who were interested in high school football, specifically those who had played, Jaguars and whatnot. We were sitting in the bleachers, and you basically just gave us the pep talk that, hey, you're step up to the big leagues now. High school football is a different ball game. So I was chomping at the bit, just waiting to get in there. And the introduction to the weight room, and I just took off with that. Spent all 4 years under your tutelage. I think back to those years, which were obviously some of the best years of my life because of football, but not just because of football, but because of you as my coach. Obviously you were my head coach for varsity, but even as a freshman and sophomore on the JV team, you were still the leader of the program. And we spent so much time together in the weight room in the off season, even as an underclassman before I was even on varsity. Outside of that, I mean, the passing leagues that we would go to, the football camps in the summertime at CMU. I had the privilege of going as a sophomore all 3 years, and Kirk and I actually rode together with R.C. DeRocher and Anthony Lohr my sophomore year. So I was the underclassman in that truck ride. That was a trip to say the least, but good memories all around. And that was actually one of the reasons why I went to CMU, was because of the familiarization with the campus and the football camps and the program there. I was very comfortable with it, and it made for some good years ahead after high school at CMU because of those football camps. But yeah, I mean, the memories and the stories go on and on. I could spend all night talking about this, but I'm sure Kirk will chop it up for his podcast. But I mean, the lessons learned by playing football, most players who are dedicated to the cause get something out of it. But as I mentioned before, I had a lot of coaches. I had a lot of good assistant coaches, a lot of good position coaches, a lot of good coordinators. But you were the one constant through all 4 of those years. Like I said, it was year round. The things that you taught us, the stories that you shared with us, I always appreciate at the end of practice when we take a knee and you'd give us the brief on what's coming up, what's to be expected for the week, whether it was a Monday or if it was Thursday pregame. You'd give us last minute tips on who we were playing that Friday night, whether it always be some sort of wisecracker, a joke, or a story, or some type of whimsical like Dave Schwartz one-liner. I mean, Tony and I we still say them to this day. Some of which I'm not gonna necessarily repeat on here because they're kind of inside jokes for young men, but I mean, they were just hilarious. You never missed a beat. You would be so serious and you'd be talking to us about, the X's and O's or who we were up against, doing the chalk talk. And then you would just slide in like this Dave Schwartz jab or like whimsical, like sarcastic comment. And it would go over some people's heads because you would say it with the straightest face, but I would pick up on it every single time. And it was hilarious every single time. But yeah. I mean, you obviously were a big part of the program there at Garber, and that's why you're being honored with the Hall of Fame, which rightfully so. I mean, I knew you came from Mount Pleasant High School and had some experience going into Garber, but it wasn't until I read your actual full bio for the induction where I was like, oh wow, like you you got a whole body of work before you even came to Garber. I mean, obviously you spent a bulk of your career there and you're still with the school system, and it's a small community, and, you were the right guy for the job. 2001 payback time, that was the slogan that year. You guys, I think you went 7-2 that year. I was a freshman, and lost in the playoffs round one. And then the perfect season after that, which would have been Kirk's senior year, I believe, the 9-0 season. So, we went 5-4 my junior year. And that was a Cinderella story. That was the one and only district championship that Garb football had, which was pretty special. We had a chance to play Frankenmuth during the day on a Saturday. It was like a college football game. Or for us who had played Pee Wee, it was like a Saturday Pee Wee game all over again. It was freezing cold in November in Frankenmuth, and we won. That was pretty special. That was a Cinderella year. I remember Sunday selection sitting there waiting to see if we were going to get in the playoffs, and we did, and then we won, and we won again. Fortunately, Pinconning took us down, but in the regionals. But then senior year, I think we went 7-2 again, made to the playoffs, and made to the second round, got bounced by Saginaw Nouvelle, go figure. But we beat Swan Valley, so had a couple playoff wins under our belt underneath you, and it was just a good run. I mean, I still think about those experiences to this day. I coach now. I coach weightlifting. I coach football. I think of the things that you would say or do, or how you would approach situations, and I still tell my players and my lifters, my athletes, that those sort of similar life lessons, stories, if you will, how you approach the day-to-day, how you never really took a day off. I mean, in the off season, it was so cold. And this year, I'm down in Florida now, we would run in the hallways in the school, snowing outside, obviously. And that was, you told us, I remember that, hey, this is a 12-month sport. You might have a 3-month season, but this is a 12-month sport. So you got to be dedicated. And you encourage athletes to play other sports. I got into powerlifting, did track for a few years, but I looked forward to the off season so I could improve on what I had to work to be better at from the previous season. And you were always there in our ears running sprints. I mean, I don't know if you ever really took a day off, to be honest with you. I don't know how Angie did it all those years. Because you were athletic director and head football coach, which is a very, very, very challenging task. And you did it pretty effectively for many years. So, I know I appreciate it. I know a lot of the guys I play football with appreciated it. I think Kirk can speak the same. And that just goes to show you I'm 34 years old, and I still think back to those years. It's the bus rides, the playoff games, you name it. But like I said, not just about football. The one constant was you. You were there the whole time. So it was, I don't know if any players get a chance to really do that in their high school career, be under the same head coach who's in charge of the program for all 4 years. And I knew what to expect in the coming years. And you would always sit me down and tell me, hey, here's where you got to work better, harder. Here's where you got to improve on here. If you want a starting gig, this is what you got to do. I was undersized, as a lot of young high school kids are. And I knew that I was going to have to work my butt off to get a starting gig. And I distinctly remember my senior year. I started my senior year every game, but it was only because of the off season and the work that you did with me to get me there. It was a very real possibility that you could have slid like a Steve Fry in there and been just fine. But I think, or I hope, at least because of what you saw when we worked together in the off season and in training camps and in passing leagues and in two-a-days and all that stuff, that it was, okay, this is a guy that'll go to battle with me. And I would. There was nothing that I wouldn't do, because I knew that what you were teaching me was the right way. And I wanted to be better as an athlete, a player, and a person. So, me, I was quite a jokester, I guess I'll use the word immature at times. And I spent a lot of time in your office, for good, better, and indifferent. A lot of it was usually in between class. I'd stop and just talk with you, shoot the shit, and just, kill some time, and because I just enjoyed your company. But I remember you had this sign, I know you'll remember it, in your office, 8 by 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, with a cartoon, like construction worker with a shovel, and he was in a hole. And there's a pile of dirt next to it. And then on the bottom, it said, when you're in a hole, stop digging. And I can count on a few times on my hands when I'd come in your office and I'd sit down, whether you summoned me or I was sent there, I just wanted to stop and say hi. And you would just sit back and go, and you'd point right at that sign. And I'd be like, I know, I gotta straighten my act up a little bit, whatever. It was usually all harmless stuff, but I'll never forget that sign. It sticks in my head vividly. It was right behind your chair on your desk, on your wall. But yeah. Anyway, here I'm rambling as usual, but not enough good things I can say about you. I mean, totally deserving of the Hall of Fame. You certainly molded and changed my life, helped me to improve and set myself up for success. We all know that football is more than X's and O's. It's about teaching young men how to approach life with resiliency and integrity and grit and willpower, and just not quitting when times get tough. Because let's be honest, football's a very tough sport. But you were just there as a champion nonstop. I mean, and aside from football, powerlifting. If you recall, I mean, we got the powerlifting club going my junior year, or it was my senior. I did it by myself my junior year. And I was bouncing ideas off you all the time, and we couldn't find anyone to coach the team, no parent, no teacher, no coach, whatever. So I said, I'll do it myself, and you like fully supported me. I was an 18-year-old kid managing the budget, the funds, we hosted a meet. You supported that. We got at least a dozen or so schools in there to that meet. If you recall, we had concessions, we had a formal banquet. You were there for that. Like, you supported that powerlifting club every step of the way. Every step of the way. There was nothing that I wanted to do where you were like, no, that can't be done, or no, we won't do that, or nah, it's not going to work. People aren't going to like that. You saw the ambition and the drive that I had to want to do it, because it was a good thing for the school and for the kids, the community, the parents, you name it. And you fully supported it. Like, I had your backing on everything. It was without that, a lot of it wouldn't. We wouldn't have been able to host a meet if you weren't on board with it. We wouldn't have been able to have a banquet if you weren't on board with it. We wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things, but we had a lot of success too. Won a couple championships at TVCs and a couple invitationals, took some kids to states. I mean, it was a extremely successful season. But it was because of the 1-2 punch with kind of me and you doing that. You were hands off and you let me drive the show, but you were just there supporting the program the entire step of the way. And then that was awesome. I mean, that's truly awesome. I mean, not many adults, be it teachers, coaches, parents, or ADs, would be like, yeah, we'll just turn the reins over to a club to, a senior. But like I said, you didn't just give me a thumbs up and turn a blind eye. You were there. So you were there at the meet. You were there at the banquet. You fully supported it. So I thank you for that, because I mean, powerlifting and weight training's become a huge part of my life today. I mean, I'm opening up my own gym down here in Florida with my wife here in a few months. So thank you. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for coaching us. Thank you for telling all the tales that a coming of age group of young men need to and want to hear on the campfire at football camp, and while we're taking a knee out on the practice field. And, when we lost a game, which didn't happen very often, but when we did, it hurt, but you always had the right things to say in the end zone. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing this podcast. Hopefully next time I'm in town, we can link up and have a beer, share a few words. So, well, for you, it might not be a beer, it'd probably be a cold Fresca or something like that, but we'll talk soon. Thanks, Coach.